Hey everyone, welcome to today's daily analysis. Today is Thursday, so today we had the unemployment claims announcement for the US dollar, along with a few other pretty major announcements. So we're going to kind of sift through some of the charts, try to figure out what the effect of those things were and what we anticipate from here in terms of how things reacted today, and will they continue, or was it just news, or what is the most logical anticipation for price to go next, basically. So I'm going to get into all of that. First, we're going to cover our news for tomorrow, so we have a good idea of what may affect the things that we're talking about, and then we're also going to cover our terms like we always do. Alright guys, and if you look tomorrow, you'll see that there's not a lot of major news coming out. A few lighter orange tagged events throughout the London session for Euro and a little bit for Pound as well. But as it gets into the New York session, really the only thing to note is that at 9:55 there's a consumer sentiment a consumer sentiment report that you'll probably want to pay attention to, and again it's at 9:55 a.m. And considering tomorrow's Friday, probably won't be trading a lot after 10 o'clock a.m. anyway, so that might not even affect us, but that is the major announcement to keep in mind. Alright, and these are our terms, guys, which, as you probably know, they basically just say that we're not licensed or qualified to provide investment advice. The daily analysis is just something that Winner's Edge Trading does as an educational value to you, and that's all it is. Alright, if you need to read through those to understand them fully, please go ahead and pause the video so that you can read through. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to our charts at this time. Alright, and the first one I have up here is the Euro odd, which is one we've been talking about lately because of this situation. As you can see, I have kind of a potential setup drawn out here where as price is sitting right near the 50 fib level, and it's actually punctured through and is starting to bounce off of that, there's the likelihood that we're going to get a bounce to some key area. Now, the most logical key area would probably be the next fib level, which would be 38.2, before a continuation back down. And so, because my sentiment is that the Euro odd probably is going to head down and eventually get to much lower lows, I'm thinking that on the next test, if it continues down, it would probably be likely to actually go ahead and break this area to the downside. And so if it does that, then of course there's one other fib level in place, and then if it breaks that, we're talking about a major target of all the way down into the 117 range. Now, to me, the 61.8 fib level is not as powerful as a 38.2 or 50 level, because, in my opinion, if there's a lot of momentum and it's turning and it gets all the way down to the 61.8 level, then it's likely that even though it might struggle here, it's probably not going to reverse right back up, and continue the uptrend because it's already gone so far in the reverse direction. Now, of course, sometimes it does do that. But as far as probability is concerned, I think that once the momentum shifts and gets all the way down to that level, it's very likely that the train is already, rolled far enough, so to speak, and it is getting down, toward lower lows. Now, again, it might struggle down here. I might get to the 61.8 level and bounce back up to the 50 or chop for a while, or whatever. But my opinion is that eventually it is going to head back down and touch our previous lows if it gets there. So that's kind of what I'm anticipating. It would be nice if it bounced right up to the 38 and then showed continuation, because that would make a very easy setup anyway. Of course, a lot of times it doesn't work like we picture it in our mind perfectly, but we'll see. And again, I'll just keep you up to date as far as the Euro odds concerned and what I'm seeing with that. Right now, I'm kind of just waiting for it to bounce up toward a different level, or a higher level, so that I can look for the opportunity to short it. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at the Euro US dollar as well. And the Euro dollar is also sitting right on this trend line still, which is something we talked about. Because this trend line is a relatively shallow slope trend line, in other words, it's not moving straight down like this, it's more sideways and only slightly heading down. That doesn't set you up for really, momentum-filled moves. A lot of times, price is just bouncing very minimally, as long as it respects this trend line, which again is not going to be very, massive drops. However, if you get in on one of these peaks, you're still going to be in for, a great long-term setup, because obviously if it follows that trend line, it's going to be heading down for quite some time. and you want to take advantage of that. But in my opinion, right now, it just seems like with the euro showing some decent weakness, it's better to pair it against some of the currencies that are a lot stronger. And of course, one of those is the odd, like we just mentioned, and how far how far that has fallen compared to the euro dollar. That obviously shows you that the odd has a lot more strength behind it than the U.S. dollar. And to show you that more clearly, we can go over and take a look at the odd dollar chart. And so obviously the fact that this has been moving up is showing you that the odd is stronger than the dollar. Now, over the past 2 days, the dollar has made very slight ground, trying to push the odd back down. And as we've mentioned before, if it pulls right back into our trend line here and bounces again, then we will look for some continuation to the upside. Now, eventually, if it continues to follow along this trend line, we'll have a little mini triangle here within our major wedge, and that could provide us a potential breakout from the top of this area, which would be a pretty huge break in my opinion. So that's one to keep in mind. Just keep watching this odd dollar and how price reacts to it, because if it continues to tighten up, we'll look for a breakout. Now, technically speaking, the more likely breakout for the odd dollar would be toward the downside, because that would keep it within this major range if it goes to the downside. But if it breaks up out of this major range, then that'll be the first time it's broken out in several months, which would be a pretty key level. So a couple things to keep your eye on with the odd, but the main thing is probably just waiting for a pullback into our trend line here and to look for a long opportunity off that area. Another pair just to make a quick note of is the pound dollar. Again, we were waiting to see if the pound dollar is in fact going to bounce right back up in this trend line, or if it's going to make a lower low and continue steepening this downtrend. And so far we have not got our answer. So I just want to make a quick note that the pound dollar is still kind of sitting still, not making a lot of progress as it kind of fights in this level. And so I will alert you when something changes there. But as of right now, it is pretty still. Okay, guys, another pair to make a quick note of is the USD yen. If you remember, we talked about the breakout here in the bullish momentum on the USD yen. It reached a peak up near the 80.5 area and has pulled down pretty significantly. So right now we're at a pretty decent horizontal level. If price bounces off this level to the upside, there's good potential for long continuation there. Of course, if it breaks down below this area, there's pretty good potential for a short coming all the way back down to this former area, anywhere in this zone here between these two parallel lines. So a zone here to pulling the price down, and then of course a bounce would suggest that it's trying to make a higher high along these tops. So keep an eye on the US yen. Definitely some potential there in terms of long and short trades. Okay, guys, and then the last pair I want to take a look at is the euro pound. And obviously, we've mentioned the euro pound has broken down below this trend line and moved down somewhat consistently. Obviously, not major bars. We see some struggling here, but two bearish bars in a row now, today and yesterday. Again, not finishing very strong, but still making some bearish ground. And of course, the one thing that we want to keep an eye on is the previous low here on this uptrend. So if price is going to break below this area and get towards the 79 price range, then we're going to probably be looking for shorts, because that's showing very clear signs of reversal. Now, if price comes all the way down to this area and then makes a bounce, then that's going to be a high probability chance that it's coming up to test anywhere in this little zone around this trend line, and we'll probably want to take advantage of that as well. So the euro pound is another one that will have both potentials depending on how it reacts at that area, and so we'll keep an eye on that. Now, because the euro pound moves so slowly, it's not likely that we'll get there today or tomorrow, or maybe even in the first few days of next week. But eventually price is likely to get to that area, whether it bounces up and tests the top trend line first, or just slowly fights until it gets there. One way or another, I would assume that price is going to pull back into this area eventually to test this previous low. And so when it does that, hopefully we'll get a more clear idea of what euro pound is up to, and give us some good short or long-term opportunities. Okay, so that's it for the analysis today. Thank you guys for stopping by, and of course leave a comment if you have any questions or thoughts or ideas or anything else. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.